Hello and welcome to IP Study video lecture. The chapter we are going to cover today is nutrition in plants. The topics we are going to cover in this chapter are nutrition, autotrophic nutrition, heterotrophic nutrition, insectivorous or carnivorous plants. So, before we start the chapter, I wanted to know, do only green plants prepare their food? Do plants depend on animals for their food? Well, to seek all these answers, we are going to understand this chapter. Green plants play a crucial role in the food. They are the first step in the food chain and they are mainly responsible for providing food to all other organisms, whether large and small animals or humans. Green plants, if you can look in this diagram, you can see that green plants are the producer in the food chain. Animals are depend on green plants for the food as well as oxygen. And the oxygen and the carbon dioxide produced by these animals are produced by plants for photosynthesis to produce their own food. Therefore, there is an interdependence between plants and animals. What are nutrients? Nutrients are the substances which are required to perform various functions. The nutrition process is divided into two types: autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. Let us now start with autotrophic mode of nutrition in plants. What is autotrophic nutrition? Well, the mode of nutrition in which plants produce their own food is known as autotrophic nutrition. Can you guess which organisms can come under this category? Well, only green plants and some other smaller organisms like bacteria are called autotrophs as they produce their own food. So what do you think, how do plants produce their food or where this procedure of photosynthesis occur? Well, photosynthesis occur mainly in leaves. However, in some plants, it also occurs in stem, for example, cactus. Therefore, leaves are also known as food factories of the plant. Let me show you the chemical reaction which occur during the process of photosynthesis. So, during the process of photosynthesis, plant take the carbon dioxide and water from the soil. Under the influence of sunlight, they produce food known as glucose and oxygen. So, if I can show you the chemical reaction, let me show you the chemical reaction. It occurs like this. Plants take carbon dioxide plus water to produce glucose and release oxygen in the air. Let us now learn photosynthesis in detail. You have already known that for the process of photosynthesis, three raw materials are mainly required. Those raw materials are sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide. Another thing which is necessary for photosynthesis is chlorophyll. Let us now study photosynthesis in detail. Do you know why plants need photosynthesis? They need photosynthesis to produce energy. This energy is utilized by them for various processes such as growth and for their own survival. There are certain raw materials required by plants for undergoing photosynthesis. These materials are sunlight, water, carbon dioxide. Apart from them, they also need minerals. So, let us go each one of them in detail. First is sunlight. Plants are among few organisms which can directly absorb sunlight. They take the sunlight, convert their light energy into chemical energy to produce their food called glucose. To absorb this sunlight, plants require a special chemical, a special pigment which is known as chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a green colored pigment. It is present inside the chloroplast and that chloroplast is present inside the plant cell. So, plants get their green color due to the presence of chlorophyll in them. Another important material required for photosynthesis is water. This water is absorbed by the plants through their soil using the roots. These water also contain minerals dissolved in them such as magnesium, nitrogen, iron. These minerals are necessary for the proper growth and proper procedure of photosynthesis. Another important material required by plants are carbon dioxide. Plants take carbon dioxide through tiny pores called stomata. If you can focus, these are stomata. They are present on the leaf as a small hole. They help in the intake of the carbon dioxide from the air, and oxygen, which is produced during photosynthesis, is also released from these stomata. So, do you think when plants get all the raw material, they can undergo the photosynthesis easily? No. Plants also require optimum temperature to undergo the process. The optimum temperature is between 15 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius. If there is extremely high or low temperature, then plants do not undergo photosynthesis. So the question arises, how do plants get water? From roots which are deep buried inside the soil to the leaves which are on the surface. Plants get water with the help of vessels. There are two types of vessels which allow the transport of food and water from one place to another place in plants. These two are phloem and xylem. Phloem, if you cut a stem, a small simple stem, you can see the structures. If you take a stem and you cut it into two halves in transverse section, you will see the circular structure which is the outer surface of the stem. In that you can easily see some small structure like this. These small structures are responsible for transportation of food and water in plants. This is xylem and phloem. If you can focus, they appear, if you observe it under the microscope, a detailed microscope like electron microscope, this structure appear like this: xylem connected through cambium with phloem. They are responsible for the transportation in plant. Any kind of transport in the plant will go in from this channel only. Water is mainly transported with the help of a xylem, whereas the food produced by leaves are transported to various parts of the plant with the help of phloem. So, what is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the process in which plants take the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, water from the soil, to produce, in the presence of sunlight, to produce food which is in the form of glucose and release oxygen. This glucose, why do plants produce glucose? Glucose help in the production of energy required by the body to perform their functions. All living beings need glucose to take out the energy from it. You can take the simple experiment, you can conduct a simple experiment to identify the food produced by the green leaf. You can pluck the leaf, boil it in the water, then alcohol, and conduct the starch test. Why do we do the starch test? Because food produced by the plant, which is glucose, is stored in the plant in the form of starch. Let us now study importance of photosynthesis. How is photosynthesis helpful? Photosynthesis is helpful for the plants to produce their food. It is also helpful for other living beings. It produces oxygen which is required by us for our survival. Let's study plant food produced by plants other than carbohydrates. You already know that plants produce glucose, which is a carbohydrate, but plants also need proteins. How do they get proteins? Proteins are nitrogenous substances. Plants get nitrogen from the air. In our atmosphere, there is around 78% of nitrogen present. So plants take nitrogen and then produce the protein in it. Do you think all plants directly get nitrogen? No. It is not possible for plants to get the nitrogen directly from the air. Some of the plants have certain bacteria in them. They are sitting in their roots, which take the nitrogen from the atmosphere and convert them for the plants. The bacteria which is present in the root is rhizobium bacteria, And some common plants in which these bacteria are present are gram, pea, moong, soybean. These bacteria take the nitrogen from the air and convert it into water-soluble nitrogenous substances. If you can observe this image, you can see this small circular structure present on the roots. These structures are called nodules. In these nodules, rhizobium bacteria are present. They live there. They get nutrition from the plants, and in return they supply nitrogen to the plants. So it's a mutual benefited relationship between bacteria and plant. Other than this, when we add manure or fertilizers in the soil, from that also plants get the nitrogen to produce proteins. So do you think plants permanently get the nutrient from the same soil? No. Most of the time, soil gets stripped from the nutrients when one crop is grown on it. So how do plants get the nutrients again from the soil? Well, plants like bean and gram, when present in the soil, then they replenish the soil with nutrients. Therefore, most of the time farmers prefer to grow crops such as bean and gram after they grow maize and wheat on their soil, so that their soil can again get the fertility. This practice is known as crop rotation. Another simple method is by spreading the chemical fertilizers on the soil. Now that we have already covered the autotrophic nutrition, let us understand what is heterotrophic nutrition. Do you think all plants can produce their own food? Most of you might say yes. Well, no. Some plants do not produce their own food. They are dependent on other plants or animals for their food. Such as plants like amabel, they are dependent on other plants for their food. They cannot directly prepare their own food. They use different mode of nutrition. So, let me come to the definition of heterotrophic nutrition. The mode of nutrition in which one organism is dependent on another organism for their food is known as heterotrophic nutrition. All the animals undergo heterotrophic nutrition. Therefore, they are called heterotrophs. However, certain non-green plants also undergo heterotrophic nutrition. Let us now understand the types of heterotrophic nutrition. There are mainly three types of heterotrophic nutrition. They are parasitic, saprophytic, and symbiotic. Let us first study parasitic mode of nutrition. Some plants are dependent on another plant for their food and they extract nutrients from them. This mode of nutrition is known as parasitic nutrition. There are two types of parasitic nutrition. One is ectoparasitic, another is endoparasitic. In ectoparasitic, parasite lives on the surface of the host plant. However, in endoparasitic, they live inside the body of the host. So there are certain viruses or bacteria which are living inside our body and harming us. Those are endoparasites. One of the most common example of parasite is Cuscuta. In our common language, we call it amarbel. How do Cuscuta get their nutrition? They climb on the branches of other plants with the help of thread-like stems. They are very thin stems through which they crawl on another plants. They develop parasitic roots, which are also known as haustoria, which go into the host plant to obtain the nutrients. It is a complete parasite. Why? Because it is completely dependent on another plant for the nutrient. They do not have even a small amount of chlorophyll in it. Another common example is mistletoe. You can observe the mistletoe, and this is Cuscuta. Cuscuta is total parasite because it is completely dependent on another plant. However, mistletoe is partial parasite. Means it is not completely dependent on another plant. Means on its host plant. Another mode of nutrition is saprophytic mode of nutrition. So what is saprophytic mode of nutrition? In this form of nutrition, plants or animals, they consume dead and decaying material. One of the common example of saprophytes are fungi, and further example of fungi is mushroom. So the mushroom you are eating grow on the dead and decaying material. If you go through the forest or any plant nearby during the rainy season, you can easily observe a small whitish growing on the wood log, especially that wood which is getting rotten. Those white growth is fungi and they undergo saprophytic mode of nutrition. Therefore, all the organisms which undergo saprophytic mode of nutrition are called saprophytes. How do they get nutrition? Saprophyte produce digestive juices. They release digestive juices directly on the rotten, dead and decaying material, which helps them break down the large and complex portion of those material into the simpler one, then they directly absorbs it. One of the benefits of saprophytic mode of nutrition is that saprophytes help in cleaning the environment. These organisms break down the food into smaller portions. They clean the dead and decaying materials. All the dead and decaying plants and animals are removed from the environment with the help of saprophytes only. So you can say that saprophytes are the environment friends. In addition to this, when they consume the dead and decaying material, the remaining material get released directly into the soil, which help in replenishing the soil. In this way, a cycle is formed in the nature where plants are grow using the nutrients from the soil. When these plants die, they are consumed by saprophytes and remaining nutrients are released back into the soil. So you can say that plants take nutrition from soil, then they are consumed by animals or other plants. Once they die, they are consumed by fungi and remaining nutrients are released back into the soil. This forms a big cyclic process. You can observe the growth of fungi at your home also. If you take a bread, sprinkle a few drops of water and left outside on the table for 3 to 4 days, you can observe the small cottony green or white thing on the bread. That cottony green thing is fungi. You can try it at home. Another mode of nutrition is symbiotic mode of nutrition. In this type of nutrition, both the organisms get equal benefit. If you recall the previous type of nutrition, which is parasitic mode of nutrition, you might have observed that one plant is getting a benefit and another is lacking the benefit. But in symbiotic mode of nutrition, it is absolutely different. In this relationship, both the organisms get the benefit. So, symbiotic mode of nutrition is a special type of partnership among the two different type of plants or animals that live together for their food and nutrition. This process is called symbiosis. One of the most common example of symbiosis is lichen. If you have recalled, I have already tell you another example of symbiotic relationship. Can you guess that? That example is relationship between plant and rhizobium bacteria, in which one is getting nutrient and another is getting nitrogen from the atmosphere with the help of bacteria. So what are lichens? If you can observe this image, the greenish growing on the plant, on the tree log is lichen. Lichens are composed of two different type of organism. One is fungus in it and another is algae. They stay together. Algae undergo the process of photosynthesis and produce food. This food is consumed by fungi. Algae produce food for the fungi and fungi provides them with the protection, water and minerals which are necessary for the process of photosynthesis. Algae are also the type of green plants only. They also undergo the process of photosynthesis. For that they require water and minerals which can be provided by the fungus. So both are getting benefit in this relationship. Therefore, symbiotic relationship is a positive and helpful relationship for both the organisms. One of the common example which we can observe among the animals for symbiotic relationship is the relationship between egret bird and buffalo. Egret bird often sit on the back of the buffalo, consume the ticks and mites which are present on the body of the buffalo. This helps buffalo in getting the clean body and in return egret is getting a food. Another common example of symbiotic relationship is the relationship between human being and bacteria. Yes, you heard right. Human beings and bacteria are also having a symbiotic relationship. One of the common bacteria, E. coli, lives in our large intestine. It helps in the absorption of vitamin K, and in return we provide nutrients to them for their nourishment. Let us now take the topic called insectivorous or carnivorous plants. So what is carnivores? You already have known that carnivores are the organisms which depend on another animals for their food directly or indirectly. Similarly, there are certain plants which are also dependent on another organism. They are also known as carnivorous as well as insectivorous plants. Some of the common examples of insectivorous plants are Venus flytrap, pitcher plant. They grow on the soil from where they do not extract required nutrients. They consume and small insects such as flies direct from the air and then get the desired nutrient, which is mostly nitrogen. So far we have covered so many topics. Let us now recall them one by one. All the plants and animals need food. Animals are dependent on plants for their food either directly or indirectly. The process by which plants get the food is known as photosynthesis. It is a complex process occurring in leaves. That is why leaves are called food factories of plants. In leaves, there is a small structure called chloroplast, which contain a pigment green colored, which is known as chlorophyll. The raw material required by plants for photosynthesis are water, carbon dioxide in the presence of sunlight. Apart from carbohydrate, plants also require proteins which they get with the help of rhizobium bacteria. These bacteria are present in the root nodules of leguminous plants. There are two types of nutrition, autotrophic and heterotrophic. The plants undergo the process of autotrophic nutrition. Other form of nutrition is heterotrophic. Mostly animals go through them and few plants. That's all for today. I hope you have learned a lot. We will meet again in the next lecture. Thank you.